Your top stories this evening brought to you with the kind compliments of Quartz, bringing value home. Only 3 forensic audit investigations completed by SOCU. The unit is hiring to cope with heavy workload. Relatives of 7-year-old found dead on foreshore furious over police action. And a new batch of HPV vaccinations to be launched in October. HGP Nightly News starts right now. Good evening to our viewers here in Ghana and online. I am Javon Vickery with the Tuesday, September 5 edition of the HGP Nightly News. Here's what you need to know this evening. The Special Organized Crime Unit is hiring additional staff to cope with investigations into a plethora of forensic audits under its purview. Ayana George reports.
The Special Organized Crime Unit SOCU is faced with an uphill task investigating dozens of matters arising from forensic audits conducted at state agencies. Head of SOCU, Assistant Commissioner Sidney James, says the unit is beefing its staff to cope with the heavy workload.
We've had an increase in the staff complement, and I know there are recommendations for further increase in the staffing of the Special Organized Crime Unit. Yes, that's correct. Investigators in the main and other specialized staff like forensic accountants, auditors, etc.
Investigations into the issues at hand appear to be moving slowly, with few of the many matters fully investigated so far. 25
forensic audits have been referred for investigation. We've completed 3 in its entirety. Pradoville, but 28 of 67 for Nissil, and there's one other, the law reports to the Commonwealth, former AG Nandalal. Those have been completed. You know Mr. Nandalal's matters in front of the court.
The SOCU head told reporters that several matters are currently at the desk of the police legal advisor, while SOCU awaits legal advice.
In addition to that, we have several other investigations. Gold smuggling investigation, money laundering investigations are among some of the other investigations which are ongoing.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, Ayana George.
Thank you, Ayana. The Working People's Alliance has come out in support of the Commission of Inquiry into Indigenous Lands, stating that a land commission to address land issues in Ghana is long overdue. The WPA stated that the party hopes that the Commission of Inquiry will carry out an extensive study on the system and in the process of its review and make recommendations that will right the numerous wrongs that have been committed against legitimate landholders and their heirs. The party stated, quote, "The 23 years of the PPPC administration has witnessed the country retrogressing on the burning issue of land rights and justice. Measures were imposed by that regime, which formally and informally gave huge portions of lands to party functionaries and their families, whether they lived in Ghana or abroad. This practice was a systemic process that facilitated land grabbing in a manner not seen before in Ghana. Expropriation of private and public lands became the order of the day. Those persons with political connection in the power structure became the local land czars. In many cases, African ancestral lands were taken away and given to non-Africans." End of quote. The party says it has noted the attempt by the opposition PPPC and its leader Barry Jagdeo to use the commission to seek to divide Africans and Amerindians by portraying the COI as an instrument to take away lands from Amerindians and give it to Africans. The WPA calls on all patriotic and peace-loving Guyanese to support the work of the Commission of Inquiry. The uncle who's accused of killing his niece for her jewelry was on Tuesday remanded to prison on the capital charge of murder. We have the details in this report. 20-year-old Sherwin Roberts left the courtroom of Chief Magistrate Anne McLennan limping as he made his way to the holding cell of the Georgetown Magistrates Court. It is alleged that on September 1, 2017, at Lot 98 North Sophia, Georgetown, he murdered 18-month-old Renasha Pilgrim. The man who stood silently in the prisoner's dock of Court 1 was not required to plead to the indictable charge. Bail was refused and Roberts will make his next court appearance on September 25. Police say the toddler and her brothers were left alone in the house by their father, who went to work as a security guard. The police say that at the time of the father's departure, the 20-year-old man allegedly broke a northern window, entered the house, and attempted to relieve the now deceased child of her earrings. Reports state that the toddler began to scream, raising an alarm. It was further revealed by the police that the alleged killer then tossed Pilgrim through the window into a swampy yard. But it didn't stop there. The authorities in the report stated that the man allegedly placed a pile of wood on top of the child, who was submerged under approximately 18 inches of water and slush. Javon Vickery, HGP Nightly News. Welcome back. The Ministry of Legal Affairs is hitting the road with information about the legislative measures in train to protect the nation's assets from pilferers. Anna George reports.
Anti-corruption sensitization is a government strategy aimed at providing the widest cross-section of citizens with a proper understanding of legislative measures intended to protect state assets. Last Friday, the Ministry of Legal Affairs addressed Londoners and various stakeholders on the importance of the anti-corruption bill.
There's this conventional theory that there's an inverse relationship between corruption and poverty. The greater the corruption, the greater the poverty of the people. It follows because if they siphon off the assets of the people, then there's nothing for the government to spend on the people.
The idea is to keep the public informed about the administration's desire and intent to resort to civil proceedings to protect and recover state assets from public officials involved in improprieties.
The State Assets Recovery Act embodies the anti-corruption trust of the state of Guyana, and it is predicated on the United Nations Convention Against Corruption of 2003, which was ratified by the government of Guyana in April 2008. It uses a civil recovery process as against criminal and is intended to give effect to the non-conviction-based asset recovery recommendations contained in the convention.
Community Development Councillor Sandra Adams expressed gratitude for the initiative taken by the Ministry of Legal Affairs.
Corruption would have taken our country backwards and robbed the people from the benefits they should derive from what was supposed to be there. And because of corruption, development was stymied in many areas. But today, our government have taken a position that we should remove corruption and allow development to flow.
She further stated that Londoners need transparency. The Ministry of Legal Affairs plans to continue its anti-corruption sensitization in Corriverton, New Amsterdam, and Essequibo before the end of 2017. Reporting for HGP Nightly News, Ayana George.
Thank you, Ayana. The two Argentine experts who are spearheading the restoration of national artworks are currently working on a number of national art pieces at the Castellani House. Kristen Macklingham reports.
This project has been in the works for some time after issues arose surrounding the quality and preservation of local artwork, specifically the National Gallery at the Castellani House. However, according to UG Senior Lecturer Alim Hussein, who works closely with Castellani House, the National Gallery would need a wide range of treatments that locals cannot provide.
It's not simply a matter of coming and taking artworks and applying some chemicals, etc. to them, but a very culturally sensitive and contextualized process. The gallery, of course, has done its best, but it doesn't have a full-time conservator and so or conservation expert, and we don't have the kinds of skills in Guyana. So it's very important the kinds of training that will be done and the actual preservation of work.
Mr. Hussein explained that there are a number of reasons why these artworks need conservation, reasons ranging from the kinds of materials the artist used and the age and ways in which the art pieces are stored. But one thing is for sure, the national collection needs to be preserved, he said.
It is a collection of artwork, paintings, sculptures mainly, but also drawing, textile work, ceramic work, etc. Work in clay, rock clay, and other media that are there, close to about 2,000 pieces of work. That represents a very important part of the Guyanese national treasure.
The Argentine team will spend 1 week working assiduously to treat as many art pieces as it can during this first phase of the project. And Mr. Hussein opines that the inclusion of the Department of Language and Cultural Studies at UG is timely, since students can be trained to be aware of conservation and preservation methods.
You just don't pick up any piece of canvas and you work on it, but you work on it with a view that it will be preserved and that it should last for a long time. Because we all understand that the art that is created is not a hobby and a pastime alone, but it's a very important way of getting reflections of people's ideas, of their thoughts on issues, of social matters, philosophical matters, all of that are in the artwork.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingham.
Thank you, Kristen. The mother of a 7-year-old girl whose body was found almost a week after she went missing at the Kitty Seawall is disappointed at the way the police handled her daughter's case. She recounted her experience in this report. 7-year-old Jelena Titus went missing last week during a family trip to the Kitty Seawall. Her body was found 2 days later at Zilok foreshore, more than 16 miles away on the west coast of Demerara. But the family of Titus was only made aware of the discovery on Monday, over a week after she went missing. The child's mother, Onika, told Nightly News that what might have occurred from the discovery of her child's body to when relatives were informed by a local newspaper still leaves unanswered questions. The family claims that when Titus's body was found last week Wednesday, there were apparently no attempt by the police in the district to see whether there was a missing person report in other policing divisions.
To know that the body was found so many days ago, it's heart-rending. Still want to know why, because all that time we grieving, the family, we are so stressed out, you know, wondering where the body is. And then the body's right there. And an officer they couldn't even call to another station to know if a report been made that any other child was missing or anything.
Henry told this newscast that when the family heard of the discovery, they immediately traveled to Region 3, only to be informed by the police in the district that the body was identified as that of a boy. Titus was later identified by the clothes she was last seen in.
He didn't even check the body properly. He didn't do a proper search on the child, even though, identify properly. But even though when we reached to the station, they don't even have a report written. They didn't even have nothing written that, this man find this child. You understand? And what information he gave to them. They didn't even have something written up,
When contacted on Tuesday, Commander of D Division Leslie James explained that when he contacted the family, the claims and concerns raised with this newscast were not raised with him. Javon Vickery, HGP Nightly News. Thanks for staying tuned to the HGP Nightly News. We tell you now that the Ministry of Public Health and the PAHO WHO collaborate to create increased awareness of the human papillomavirus vaccination. Anna George reports.
According to PAHO WHO, the human papillomavirus HPV is the second most common cancer in women during their reproductive age. On Tuesday, PAHO WHO and the Ministry of Public Health conducted a discussion on the importance of tackling cervical cancer in young girls between the ages of 9 to 13 years. PAHO WHO country representative Dr. William Adu-Crow explains more.
Guyana cervical cancer rates was 46.9 per 100,000 Guyanese population, and the most affected was the Afro-Guyanese. I think this is something that I think needs more study. I don't want us to just quote the figure that Afro-Guyanese are more likely to have cancer of the cervix from HPV. It needs to be looked at more, because there could be some spurious factors out there. So we need to look at that. But the data that we have from 2003 to 2012 indicates that.
Dr. Adu Crow says the aim is to bring awareness to young girls about getting the vaccination, which will guard them throughout their lives from the HPV.
HPV prevents cancer, and that's the issue that we want out there. I'm hoping that we are not going to have any issues about, oh yes, but if you have the vaccine, that means that the child can go around and be moral or do whatever they have, or do whatever they want to do. Research has not shown that. The same arguments that we had for the use of condoms, that if you give adolescents and the youth condoms, that means now they can run around amok.
Maternal and Child Health Officer Dr. Ertanisa Hamilton tells us a little more about cervical cancer affecting Guyanese women.
The number of cases of cervical cancer is actually increasing. Of the data that we reviewed from 2003 to 2012, it was identified that 4% of the cervical cancer was detected in stage 1. Stage 1 is where you can do something about it. Now, if we only have 4% in stage 1, that means 96% of all the other cancers were detected outside of that stage.
The Ministry of Public Health is far from making it mandatory that young girls become vaccinated before their first sexual encounter, but is feverishly working to educate the population on the importance of preventing cervical cancer. Deputy Chief Medical Officer Dr. Karen Boyle urges every mother, wife, daughter to take a stand to fight the human papillomavirus.
Please partner with us, come and speak with us on how you can become involved, how you can get the message out, because as Dr. Adu Crow said, it's our responsibility. Health is not the responsibility of the Ministry of Health alone. It is our responsibility collectively. And I am convinced that if we put our heads together and work together, there is no way we're not going to be able to change the prevalence and the incidence of cervical cancer in Guyana.
HPV vaccination is expected to be launched on October 16th, when health officials will begin conducting outreaches in communities and schools. Reporting for HGP Nightly News, Ayana George.
Thank you, Ayana. Plans are underway for 16 more MBA courses from internationally accredited universities to be introduced at the nation's university shortly. Christian Macklingham has more details in this report.
Education is key to the elimination of poverty, and therefore it is important that the population be granted opportunities to elevate their levels of education in as many fields as they choose. That is why the nation's university is working to ensure that at least 16 more MBA courses are added to its list quite soon.
We're also looking now, in collaboration with the National Accreditation Committee, to bring 16 master's programs here in law, public health, international development, sociology, environmental management. So it's a mammoth undertaking, and we're really excited about all these developments.
Director of the School of the Nations, Dr. Brian O'Toole. The majority of people who pursue internationally accredited studies have better opportunities of securing higher paying jobs, which can faster elevate their standards of living. Hence, it is important that there be diversification in courses offered, says Dr. O'Toole.
We now have a partnership with a school in Canada to promote art, music, drama. So it's not just in the area of business and law and economics, but it's trying to help contribute to a rounded individual.
The School of the Nations director added that like every institution, his educational facility encounters challenges, but that the drive and commitment by those involved to educate the nation ensures that any challenge is overcome. Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingham.
Thank you, Kristen. A local educator says that the recent performance in the fields of English and mathematics at the just concluded CSEC exams should not be looked at as a stumbling block, but rather a lesson learned. Here are the details. Mr. Oren Morgan of the Morgan's Learning Center says that preparing students for the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate exam is never an easy task. Morgan says it takes the commitment of students and the dedication of teachers and educators to produce results that gel with the expectations of the education sector. When asked by Nightly News about his thoughts on the recent results which illustrated a decline in the performance in the fields of English and math, this is what Mr. Morgan had to say.
There's always room for improvement. There's room for improvement in math and English, all right? And that MLC, it's just a microcosm of what is happening, throughout Guyana. As educators, I think, or most educators, we're trying, with the resources that we have, we're trying to educate our nation's children. And it's not an easy job, all right? But we are committed at MLC and we are dedicated, all right, to the task at hand, and that is educating Guyana's children.
The Learning Center at this year's CSEC exams produced students ranging from Forms 2 to 4, securing passes from grades 1 to 3 in the fields of English and math. Morgan was asked about his secret to success.
There are always challenges, but we at MLC, we take these challenges one day at a time. And when these challenges arise, they must be conquered. At MLC, we believe that effective and efficient delivery of education is possible, and we are working towards that. We will continue to work towards that. I must also say that there's no I in team. It's a team effort.
Currently, there are over 300 students enrolled. Mr. Morgan said the results have shown the potential of Guyanese students to do well, regardless of which level they are in school, noting that it takes a collective effort to assist these students. Javon Vicker, HGP Nightly News.
Thanks for staying tuned. I'm Stanford Howard with the HGP Sportscast. We begin with cycling. 17-year-old Britton John is set to represent Guyana at the World Junior Championships slated for Norway. Colwyn Abrams with the details.
John, Guyana's current national junior champion, will be the first representative from Guyana at the meet, which is set for September 20. John will be accompanied by overseas-based Guyanese Jermaine Burrows at time trials. According to President of the Guyana Cycling Federation, Horace Burrows, it is expected that Curtis Day, 2017 time trial winner of Trojan Cycling Club, will be joining the team but is awaiting a response from his club. Burrows added that John will travel to the USA where he will continue his preparation in gym and hill training for the championships. For the HGP Sports, Colwyn Abrams.
Thank you, Colwyn. In football, the Corona Invitational Football Tournament continued last Sunday at the Guyana Football Ground with the second set of quarterfinals. GFC Trunks, Rhythm Squad, and Police edged Santos to gain their semi-final spot. In the first game of the evening, the Guyana Police Force arrested Santos 2-1 in a come-from-behind victory. First half of the game was a physical battle with neither teams being able to outdo the other. All 3 goals of the match were scored in the second half. Santos broke the deadlock in the 55th minute through a Sherwin Skeet goal, but Police Quincy Holder took charge of proceedings from there on, as he netted the equalizer in the 57th minute with a calm shot from inside the box following a corner. Holder then fired in another goal in the 77th minute, which was enough for Police to seal their semi-final spot. In the second game of the night, GFC, who haven't won a senior title in decades, continued with their aggressive playing style and scored 2 goals in the first 6 minutes of the game. Benjamin Opera was the man who set the foundation for their 5-2 win, netting 2 goals in the first half. Joel Humphrey followed his footsteps with their third effort in the 42nd minute to give GFC an imposing 3-0 lead at halftime. In the second half of the game, Rhythm Squad came out with intent to turn the match around and earn early success through a powerful long-range shot from Kevin Gordon. GFC's Dwayne Ribeiro then quickly responded with a well-taken header in the 50th minute before Oprah completed his hat-trick in the 72nd minute. Sion Hope scored Rhythm Squad's second goal in the dying moments of the game. We tell you now in basketball, Eagles defeated the Pace Setters and Colts and Cobras win by walkovers on Sunday, while Eagles trashed the Plaisance Guardians and Cobras rattled Pepsi Sonics on Monday as the Georgetown Amateur Basketball bangs the IH Malta Supreme Powerade and Rainforest Waters first, second, and under-23 league continue at the Burnham Hardcourt. In the first match on Sunday, Eagles grabbed victory from Pace Setters in an under-23 encounter. Pace Setters with no pace from the first quarter trailed 14-10. They made up for it in the second quarter to snatch a 1-point lead. They then lost rhythm and steam in the third and fourth quarters to give Eagles the win 79-71. Travis Belgrave led the Eagles scoring with 15 points, while Kevin Higgins, Kwesi Thomas, and Devon Murray each scored 14 valuable points. Final match of the night should have brought together Ravens and Cobras in a first division fixture, but Ravens failed to show up, gifting Cobras a walkover. It was back on hardcourt on Monday, the first game in an under-23 encounter between the Eagles and Plaisance Guardians, ending with a 72-52 for the Eagles. Eagles led from jump ball with a big lead of 40-22 by the end of the first half. Guardians never gained any momentum in the last half of the game. Shamar Huntley top scored with 17 points and Patrick Agrippa 14 points. In Game 2 on Monday, Cobras dismantled the Pepsi Sonics in their first division encounter 78-36. The Sonics couldn't find an antidote for the Cobras' venom. They then scored single figures in 3 quarters, 8 points in the first, 7 points in the second and third quarters. Cobras captain Travis Burnett led from the front with 27 points, and Garfield Grenville chipped in with 18. And finally in tennis, Venus Williams and Petra Konechkova to meet in the US Open 2017 quarterfinals set for Wednesday. Colwyn Abrams with the details.
American 9th seed Venus Williams and Czech 13th seed Kvitova are slated to open the night sessions of the US Open 2017 on Wednesday. The 37-year-old Williams was champion in 2000 and 2001. She is the only former US Open winner in the final 8, and she's looking for her first major win in 9 years. Williams reached the final in the Australian Open and Wimbledon this year and is in content to win a third US Open 20 years after making the final on her debut. The 7-time tennis champion has overcome injuries and illnesses in recent years, while Kvitova faces a Grand Slam quarterfinal 9 months after suffering a knife attack. The 27-year-old required surgery on her playing hand and only returned to the sport in May. For the HGP Sports, Colwyn Abrams.
That's all we have for this edition of the HGP Sportscast. Back to you, Javon.
Thank you, Stanford. Only 3 of the 25 forensic audits investigations completed by SOCU. The unit is hiring to cope with heavy workload. Relatives of 7-year-old found dead on foreshore furious over police action, and a new batch of HPV vaccinations to be launched in October. Those were our major headlines. For these and other stories, you can go to our website, that is www.hgptv.com. I'm Javon Vickery saying thanks for joining us. Goodbye.